You are listening to the Teach Middle East podcast, connecting, developing, and empowering educators.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Teach Middle East podcast with me, Lisa Grace, and today I have Neal Oates. Neal is the principal at Star International School in Mirdif in Dubai. Hi Neal, how are you?
Hello, doing well. How are you?
I am fine. We are recording this on April 2nd. I don't normally say when we record, but I'm saying we're recording this on April 2nd just to show people that life is going on, that things are happening, and that we're going to be talking today with Neal about, number one, his journey, but number two, we're going to look at something even more important, and that is how we build resilient teams. How do school leaders build resilient teams? And we'll talk around other things as well. How is life at Star, Neal? What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, it is different. I think we're obviously facing the same challenges as anyone else in the region. But again, teachers, as I always say, they're incredible, right? You're the most awesome profession in the world, and they just keep going on beyond. They're keeping the learning going. School community being fantastic online as well. So it's really supportive parents and students. And yeah, just couldn't be proud of how we're handling things. Do I want it to end tomorrow? Yes, please. I want to go back to school. I want to see the kids. But yeah, I think as a school community, we're doing really, really well. So thank you for asking.
I'm glad to hear that. I think it's not lost on anyone that schools are a lot more than just teaching and learning. When people say, oh, you can do that online, I'm like, you can, but you can't, because it's the moments between the moments that makes school special. Tell me, how did you get into education? Give me some background.
Yeah, good question. I mean, to be honest with you, Lisa, I never set out to be a teacher. My sort of path was I was at university, decided to go into industry, and I was doing, of all things, IT, cold calling, selling business to business, and it was just soul destroying. Not that I have any criticism of anyone who does that kind of thing. There's people who are amazing at that. I just realized I wasn't a very good salesperson because I was too nice, and in a roundabout way, the industry agreed. So the recession happened back in the day, and my big sister, she's a head teacher in the UK. She'd always been around me, sort of teaching, and so it was always something that was around me. And I just thought, you know what, maybe there's something a bit more fulfilling that I could be doing in my life, and just applied for the PGCE. I was going to go primary, ended up doing business, mainly because of the dates. Which is an interesting one, like paths diverge, right? I nearly become a primary teacher, but it's only because, the business economics was available at the time. Met my wife on the PGCE, which was nice. So, that went well. Well done, Nottingham-Trent University. And the rest is history, really. Just loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then the opportunity for Dubai and the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah. And then, because when I met you first, you weren't a head. So talk to me about that journey into headship. So you came out here, because I think a lot of people don't understand that there is opportunity for growth in this region, that you don't have to already be coming out as a head teacher, that you can find a path to headship here. So tell me, how did your path form in front of you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I mean, the UAE is the land of opportunity. I mean, I always say Dubai is like Disneyland for education. That's what I always say to people, because there's just so much going on, so many opportunities. I came out here as initially as a business studies teacher. I'd only had 2 years experience in the UK. I was really fortunate to get offered a head of house position, which is, it was an unpaid MLT role that wasn't really MLT, and that's the truth. That's just being nice. And what was interesting is I thought it was the best thing ever because I had this opportunity, but it turns out I think the school at the time was struggling to find anyone to do the role, because it's quite it's one of those sort of intense sort of positions that you do. You're sort of organising house events and things like that. But I just absolutely loved the responsibility, and it was like giving you that opportunity to sort of shine. So if I'm honest, it kind of started there where I was given an opportunity. I went with it. It wasn't paid. And it got me the bug. And I guess the journey to leadership was essentially just throwing myself into everything, getting involved in teach meets, all the conferences, which where I came across you. Like, I was always speaking. Like, I think people were sick of hearing from me and seeing me at one stage because, always there. And because I had a sort of technology background, it really helped me stand out in terms of what I was doing. So I got an opportunity. I was very early on asked to apply for a senior role that I was definitely not qualified for. And I remember the principal at the time, very kindly, amazing guy, Mark Ford, if you're out there. And he just explained, look, you're not there yet. I understand where you are. I understand where you want to be, but this is what you need to sort of be considering. And it's just, I think I was quite fortunate early on to get really great leaders around me, really great principals and people around me sort of giving me that guidance. But it's because you're pushing yourself and you're having that. So I ended up doing head of IT primary role of all things, so completely switched career. So I was teaching year 1 IT and year 13 business. That was a strange transition. And then head of IT, then transitioned to a head of technology integration, which was an SLT role, a hottie, as it was otherwise known. And yeah, that then led to being part of a school community that were good, very good, outstanding. That was great. And then just sort of looking out for the next opportunity. And that transition to principal, to the headship sort of thing, it really came from, I typecast myself a little bit. I'd sort of become the tech guy. And I was trying to break away from that. So I managed to get an opportunity over at Star. Knew the principal at the time, Jill Roberts, incredible human being. And yeah, 2 years in, or a year in, we were sort of going through COVID, and she'd said, look, I'm looking to retire. Do you want to take it on? And took on the opportunity, possibly a bit sooner in my career than expected. So I had to learn a lot in that time, but the school community has been really good to me. And it's really helped support me. So yeah, there's no way I'd have had the sequence of opportunities that I'd had if I'd have stayed in the UK. Being in the UAE and that sort of fast-paced environment, I always say, if you're going to work hard and you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to find the opportunities out here for sure.
So, because you nearly answered my next question with your last statement, because people are looking at where their careers can go. And some people are thinking, there isn't opportunity. What would you advise them to do to be able to spot opportunity in the sector?
It's interesting, spotting opportunity. I think that there's two ways, isn't there? There's spotting opportunity, but opportunity will find you. Is what I'd say. If you're putting yourself out there and you're putting your head above the parapet and you're putting your hand up to leaders in your current school, and you're saying, look, I really want to have an opportunity to work on, I don't know, a project, or I want to go off to this conference and speak about something I'm doing in my classroom. Also, just being an absolutely fantastic teacher in the classroom and demonstrating your pedagogy, that does get noticed. And the thing about the UAE in terms of international schools, because there's that natural transience in terms of people, there's a bit of turnover. There's always, I think the average is 20% in schools out here. It means that it's not like someone staying there for 50 years, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to get that opportunity for those leadership positions as they come. So spotting opportunity, I think it's just working on yourself, working on your CV, working on those, that impact that you can have in the setting you're in, so that when you have that conversation, you get the opportunity to interview for that next step. You've got something to talk about. Yeah. It's that's what it is, and that's what people are looking for in leadership, is people who go beyond, who are looking to have impact. I know what they're talking about. So you've got to throw yourself into things. But opportunity will either find you, as it's all notice you, or you're going to find it through persistence, as I think I found it back in the day.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And so now that you're in the role and you have to come up with your own leadership philosophy, like you can't just take on Jill's and run with it. No, you've got to become Neal the leader. What is your philosophy, Neal, as it relates to leadership?
I think that there's a couple of things that come out in terms of my philosophy around leadership. I've always been someone who believes in kindness, and I don't believe that to be successful, you have to be unkind. And if I'm honest, I've experienced leadership, not in my own schools. I've always had fantastic, but I've witnessed and experienced leadership that isn't kind. And I think there's another path. And I know that's it's something that, once upon a time you'd be frowned upon for sort of saying that kindness is really important as a leader, because you're meant to be this macho person who comes in and sorts things out, right? And stood at the front of the school and telling everyone what to do. But for me, the philosophy is around kindness, because I've seen the emotion that comes within. It's like people never forget the way you make you feel, right? And if you can make people feel a sense of community, feel loved, feel that people care about you, my experience has always been, I've always worked so much harder for those individuals. I've always tried to push myself as a result of that. And ultimately, teaching as a profession, it's about kindness, it's about community. So for me, the philosophy is always kindness first. And I insist all my leaders are kind. If they're not kind, it's a conversation. It's the one thing I say to my staff every year. If there's one thing you want to hold me to account on, and you want to question, if you don't think my leaders are kind or I'm not kind, I want to hear about it. And they will let me know if we've made a decision they don't think is kind. And you have to open that door. And the next bit is really trust. For me, trust is important. I need to demonstrate trust. I need to give people the opportunity to make mistakes. They need to know that's there. But also, that trust is twofold. I do believe that it's two-way. I talk about accountability with kindness. That's a phrase that I use a lot. And it's a strange one to get your head around when you first hear it, I guess. But for me, you could be kind, but it's not unkind to be clear. So like clear is kind. You've heard that phrase before. Because to build trust, you've got to be authentic. And this accountability is, as a leader, I have to do things like I have to go into lessons and look at the quality of learning. I'm sorry, I know that's annoying. At times, I do need to look at books. I need to talk to students. I need to monitor grades, but that's part of my job and my role. And I need you to respect that. That kindness comes two-way, right? So you have to respect that, just as I'm respecting you in terms of the support I'm giving you. When I'm giving you feedback, it's never personal, it's always professional. And ultimately, it's about kindness when we're doing accountability, because we're here for the kids, right? And we've got to make sure we're getting everything we need. So I guess that's my philosophy in a nutshell. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that helps. That helps a lot. Actually made me think of something, because I wondered, though, how do you balance accountability and kindness? Because you did mention that, but that balance is so tricky, because if you come over as too kind, there are exploitative people who will try to use that against you. And they will not want to have that level of accountability. And when you start to require that, they will say you're unkind. So how do you balance that then?
I think it's important, isn't it, to have a balance. We can't be, we can't be naive in what we're doing. There's obviously a point where we have to draw the line a little bit. But what I'd say is I've never met a teacher in my career, my entire life. Okay, well, I could be wrong about this. I've never met a teacher who doesn't care about the students. And so long as you can wrap that up in terms of what we're doing is going to lead to the benefit for the kids in this. And look, I really need this from you, because this will help our students progress more. Most teachers, 99%, I would say, really, really care, and they want things to go well. So I think it's about setting out your values and sometimes knowing that people will let you down. And it's really hard when that happens, because especially when you put yourself out there and you are about trust and kindness, and you are putting yourself in front of staff to say, look, I do believe that kindness is here. But what kindness is, it's not a weakness. It's not me saying, I'm going to let you take the mick. It's not me saying, we're going to have, a week off left, right, and center because we're here for the kids, right? So it's just having that balance. And that's why I say accountability with kindness, because we're trying to give that balance, trying to be clear that we're going to be kind, but sometimes we have to have challenging conversations, and sometimes we expect from you. But ultimately, if you're a human being about things and you understand that people are coming from different places and their truth is their truth, and you don't always have to have people agree with you. You don't have to have people nod and say, yeah, I agree. Like, that's not what you're looking for as a leader. What you're looking for as a leader is we disagree in private. Yeah. We agree in public. And when we have that challenging conversation, we move forward with it. And ultimately, I don't get it right all the time. That's the truth. And I have to be big enough to say, I got that wrong. And I've done that so many times as a leader, especially early on. Did I know what I was doing? Sort of. Yeah, but I'm learning as I go. And that's what you've got to remember. People will make mistakes. People will let you down, but you can't change who you are. And I think if you're authentic and you continue to sort of demonstrate those values, even when people take advantage, it's going to strengthen that in you. So that's how I put it across.
I love that. You keep saying clear is kind, which is something Brene Brown, one of my favorite authors and speakers on leadership, says. And it's true, is when you muddy the waters by being very obscure in your messaging, that people tend to get confused. And that confusion then leads to them being annoyed, upset with you as a leader. Now, I did mention at the start of the podcast that we are recording this on April 2nd. Which means we're in the midst of a conflict in this region. And so and I know that at STAR, because I do know some of the team there, you do have a fairly young cohort of teachers at STAR. And so I'm really curious to know firsthand from you, Neal, how are they coping in this time?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, we talk about resilience a lot around students and what we need to build in them. But actually, adults, grown-ups, as it were, we also have to sort of build our own resilience as well. I think every individual is different. So I'd say, how are staff coping? Some are coping really, really well. Some aren't coping very, very well. And that's the truth of it. Some of our staff are struggling. I think, the pressures of being at home with the kids, whilst also providing distance learning, time zone differences, because some of our staff are at different parts of the world. Some are worried because obviously, when we hear these things that are happening above us, and not to go into it too much, unless we want to explore that, there's a biological response to some of these things that you can't help. No one can help feeling the way we do when we hear these things because we're not used to it. There's a biological response to it. It's ingrained in us. And I think, to say how they're coping is what I can see in the distance learning, as we're seeing across the whole of the UE. Teachers in this country are incredible. As a profession, we saw it through COVID globally. We are some of the most kind, good-natured people that you could wish to come across. Yeah. And you see them with the live lessons. They're dealing with all this thing that's happening, and their first priority is, how can I support this child? I want to make sure that they're okay. Teachers as well, asking me, how are you, Neal? Is everything okay with you? How's your girls? That's something that's really, really special, especially at Star Mirdif for me, is the community around that, where the teachers who are going through XYZ still want to look out for the likes of me, because they're nice people. We've got that sense of the community, that sense of spirit. So how are they doing is challenging. We all want it to end, but how proud are we of these incredible teachers for everything they're doing? So, yeah, they're doing well. We're going to look after them. And look, we've had a lot of support. We're quite fortunate. ISP have been fantastic in the region, offering, sessions from Lighthouse Arabia. We've been getting specialists in to talk to leaders about the kind of conversations that we're going to have, preparing for that return to work and what that looks like. Because it's not just going to be, okay, we open the doors, everything's fine, even if it stops tomorrow. There's going to be a knock-on effect for the kids and for the teachers. And teachers, we're not qualified to have these conversations with children. Yeah? So we've got to try and prepare them for that. So work on that when they come back with specialists coming in, talking to teachers, giving them advice. And it's been really nice, and you've probably seen this as well. Companies like, I don't have a business arrangement with them, but they're offering, free counseling sessions for teachers, free sessions to sort of support us through it. And it's been really nice to see in the industry, people coming forward and supporting the educators as well. So I do well, and I'm very proud.
Yeah. So then I know that the situation in itself will build a level of resilience in teachers and in students. But as a leader, how are you building a resilient team? And this is not just for this conflict. This is for whatever comes. And we know whatever can come. We've discovered that it can happen now.
I think, look, the first thing is you can to an extent, but you can't do it now, in the sense that this is something that takes time to build. And when you're faced with great adversity, and this is quite an extreme example of that, all right? But when you're faced with adversity, what your team does in that moment is a reflection of the resilience of that team. And what I say is that the cohesion between that team. It's funny, we started this year, one of our things we were talking about was clarity, consistency, cohesion. Okay, and this sense that we need to have more, because we've grown rapidly. We've grown like the clappers over the last sort of 5, 6 years. And with that comes a sense of change all the time. And you kind of, at this point, actually, this year, we were kind of like, slow down, what's important, how do we create clarity, consistency, cohesion? And a lot of it goes back to that culture that you need to build in your leadership team. I'm a big fan of Lencioni in terms of the pyramid of trust, and how we build those things, trust, conflict, etc. And I think that's really important to take your leadership team through. I think one of the things we started the year, we've been doing this over a number of years with the people that I'm working with, is we have to build trust, we have to have conflict. We need to have a shared understanding, and we have to row in the same direction. And if your leadership team can get on board with that, get on the bus, you can get through these things. And I saw that through COVID. I saw that with COVID with Jill, this incredible principal at the time, who I was sat as number 2 to, and saw her work through this global pandemic and all the challenges. So I was really fortunate to see that and learn from that without being at the pointy end of it. And it really set me up, I think, for this period of time that we're in. But I think it takes time. It's hard. It's so hard. It's the hardest thing you do as a leader, is build other leaders and build cohesion in your team. Because it's really easy to walk in and say, we do it this way, we do it that way. But actually getting people on board, it is the most difficult thing, because everyone's got opinions, you've got different personalities, you've got different ways of doing things. You've got people who are introverted, extroverted. You've got people who, prefer to be told outright what's going on, people who don't like that. So I think, it's building that and sort of helping that within your team is really about that. But it really all comes down to trust and kindness. The team need to trust that I have their back. I need to trust that they have my back. And when you do that, when you get that, it's really special. And I think I've got that special team at the moment. They're a really great bunch.
Man, that's brilliant. And you said something very, very key there. It's not built during these times. It's after and before that, you form the foundations, and then afterwards you learn the lessons. And so that brings me to my final question, Neal, is we wake up tomorrow morning and somehow this is all over. What do we learn from this? Where to next for education? Where should we be steering the ship? What should we be focusing on?
I think, look, always, for the period after, the immediate period after, it's all about support, emotional regulation, making sure that we're taking care of well-being, building that sense of community within our schools. It's not saying the academics is taking put to one side. That's still important, of course. But actually, when we get out of this, we need to spend time to reflect on, being with the kids and making sure they're feeling that sense of community. I think what we get from this, my background's obviously technology in terms of leadership. But it's funny that the more that we experience these things like COVID and what we're going through in the Middle East, the more you realize that face-to-face learning and what you get from that experience, you just can't replicate it. We're doing a great job with distance learning, don't get me wrong. And, our kids are getting a really good deal out of that. And I think our parents are responsive to that. But there's nothing like the magic of being in school. So I think what we get out of this in the future is to continue to continue to sing the praises of education, to continue to sing the praises of teachers in the classroom, bringing that magic. People, I read a lot about, the fourth, fifth industrial revolution, and how, we're all going to be taught by AI chatbots in the future. I don't see it. And I actually think there needs to be a bit of a pushback from education in terms of some of the snake oil salespeople pushing these things. Because my view, and again, maybe it's, I don't know, it's too controversial, is the tech companies that are building these things, that their interests, do we trust their interests? Do we trust what they're saying in the back end as to why they want us all to use these tools? Where is this data going? Where's this information going? So actually, when we're thinking about what education is about, it's about human connection, it's about learning. And I don't trust corporate conglomerate to decide where we go as education. I think we need to take control of that. And I think it should come from teachers, not from tech organizations. So I actually feel a pushback against that is what I would say would be what comes next.
Yeah, I'm actually in agreement with you. I think there is going to be a level of deeper desire for human connection and genuine human connection when we come out of this, the same way it was when we came out of COVID, is where we start to place the premium value on what really matters. And what really matters is human to human interaction. Those things cannot be replicated by a tech. I was watching some new, I don't know if it was a news item, and the first lady of a certain huge country that's now involved in this, because I'm going to be very careful here, was walking out showing a robot. So she was walking and the robot was walking alongside the first lady. And then it was this big spiel about how this robot will offer personalized learning. The thing looked so freakish. And I was like, there is no way as a parent, and I'm a mom, would I just want my child left alone with this robot in any shape or form? I'm not saying robots can't be in the classroom or in the school, but not exclusively. And so I do agree with you when it comes to that side of things. I think after this, whenever this ends, it will be the human to human connection that would be of the biggest value. Okay, we won't end on that note, because who wants that to be the final thing you say on this podcast? Not me. You and I know that at this time things are a little bit uncertain, but as a family man, as a leader, what are you doing to take care of Neal? How are you ensuring that Neal is okay?
I think there's a few things there. Look, I've got a lovely family, 3 beautiful girls. I got a little one now who's 18 months. Dog, so lots of dog walks, making sure we're getting out, going to the gym where we can. And I think it's funny because obviously again during COVID you had the same thing, right? You also get a bit more time in the home, and so actually it's been quite nice spending a bit more time with the youngest one around. You might have heard her a bit earlier. She was off to her nap time. But I think it's leaning into those connections with family and just making sure that I'm spending time with them, and that fills me. That fills me up. Like I'm of an age now, turning 40 this year, and goodness gracious, where the things that really I want to do on a weekend is I want to hang out with the girls, whilst they still want to hang out with me, right? So I think classic girl dad, I guess. I just love spending time with them, and that's what's sort of looking after me. And I think it's also being in perspective and making sure that, when things happen, you don't let it knock you. Things are going to go wrong. There's going to be things that are said. You might get an email at this time, which is really difficult because it's kind of like, there's a topic there that really right now you want to talk about that. But I think it's just keep your perspective, knowing that everyone's going through challenges, and just sort of making sure that you're spending time with the people that matter, because that's what we really want around us at these sort of times, isn't it? So that's me.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Rena and the girls. I'm glad they're taking care of you and you're taking care of them. And it's been my pleasure having you on the podcast, Neal. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciated it.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Teach Middle East podcast. Visit our website, teachmiddleeast.com, and follow us on social media. The links are in the show notes.